As part of its long and detailed description of how to build the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the Torah portion this week also provides instructions about the garments worn by the Kohanim, the priests who would officiate in the Mishkan. It goes so far as to describe the bells on the hem of the high priest's garments, a detail so small as to perhaps be unremarkable, but which drew my attention this week because of its seeming insignificance. After all, the Torah does not tell us something we do not need to know. The Kohen Gadol was the only one who was to enter the Holy of Holies, where the sacred ark was kept, in order to perform certain rituals before it and before God. In reading the passage about the bells on the high priest's hem, we intuit that the function of those bells were to announce his entry into that space. Our sages explain that this is just like someone entering the king's chamber. You would not do so unless you were first announced. We will soon be reading the Megillah of Esther, in which Queen Esther makes mention of a similar practice in her time in Persia. No one could approach the king without first being summoned. Anyone who did so risked being put to death. Here too the high priest's garb makes a sound alerting God, thought to dwell in the Holy of Holies, to the high priest's presence. But the verse in our Parsha says that the sound should be heard when the Kohen Gadol is entering and leaving the sanctuary. If the bells were meant as a courtesy to God, then why would their sound be significant when the high priest is leaving that sacred space? Turning to the rabbinic commentators, we learned that it was not only God who was meant to hear those bells. They teach that it was also the other priests who were in the general area, so that they would know when the Kohen Gadol was both entering and leaving that sacred space. But there is one other possibility that one of the commentators, Nachmanides, mentions, which goes in an entirely different direction, which is that the ministering angels that attend to God would know that the high priest was coming in or going out, so that they would clear out and then re-enter the space at the appropriate time. That last explanation provides a fascinating insight into what goes on between this one man and God, and perhaps what might happen between each of us and God. The role of the priesthood generally was to act as the mediators between the people and God. At a time when sacrifice was the method of communication between the two parties, the Kohanim were the class who actually brought the offerings on behalf of the people as a whole. But what if the offerings were from the Kohanim? If it was their sins that required expiation, or their thanks that were to be expressed to God? What if the moment was so important, such as on Yom Kippur, that only the Kohen Gadol could be relied upon to perform the rituals? At those moments, he had to be alone with God, so to speak, without other priests present, or even, according to Nachmanides, even other heavenly hosts. That teaches us that there are moments in life when a particular individual's prayers are the only ones that are effective in reaching God, and that each of us needs private time with God, and that our prayers to God take precedence even over the presence of the angels. In our time, lacking an altar or other biblical methods for speaking to God, prayer is the means by which we do so. Every one of us has the opportunity and the obligation to focus our attention totally on speaking directly and privately to God. That can happen just as the high priest did with no one else present, or, since we are not him, in a minyan setting where we focus our thoughts on asking God, praising God, or apologizing to God. We at Beth Judea are now in the enviable position as a community of having minyan 5 nights a week and 7 mornings a week. I invite everyone to take advantage of these opportunities to have one-to-one time with the Creator of the universe. Your presence in minyan will also make it possible for those who are saying Kaddish for a loved one to do so. You will also get to meet other people, and Tuesday through Friday mornings, you can also stay for light refreshments. And you don't even have to come with bells on. From all of us at Congregation Beth Judea, Shabbat Shalom.